Hi everybody, welcome to week 2 of Twitter marketing at George Brown College. This week we are going to be talking about audience and tone. Again, I'm Allie. You can find me on Twitter at Allie Casella, and if you need to email me, you can send me an email to alliegbc@gmail.com, and I strive to return your emails within 24 hours. I just want to apologize in advance. I have a bit of a cold this week, so if my voice sounds weird or if you hear a distant cough, I apologize for that. Before we get started on the lecture content, I just want to talk very briefly about some guidelines for our hashtag Comp9604. I'm loving the discussion that's already happening, so thank you for everybody who's contributed so far. But just a reminder to keep your use of that hashtag for course-related materials only. I don't really want to see business promo. Let's not spam with all sorts of things that are not related to the course. So use the hashtag for the participation questions that I pose every week. And if you have articles that you've found while doing some research that are related to Twitter marketing, or if you have some comments on things that we're talking about in lecture, by all means use our hashtag. And it's also a great way to find other students from the course is by searching our hashtag on Twitter, Comp9604. So keep those things in mind when you are tweeting, and I think it'll keep our messages relevant to the course and also easier for us to filter through. Okay, so this week we are going to cover defining audience and tone, some tools that you can use, how to find your audience, and then we'll talk briefly about assignment number 2, which is a Twitter chat. Okay, getting started with audience and tone, I just want to start with audience first. So this is something that you may have seen in your community management course. So if you've already seen that, I'm just going to do this really briefly. Anytime that you are working to create a communication strategy or marketing strategy or a sales strategy, you should really have these marketing or buyer personas. They're fairly intuitive to complete. This is a really great outline from Buffer. You'll see a link at the bottom of this slide, and I'll include it. I'll tweet it out, the link, and I'll also include it in your related materials. So you can go through and read that article on your own because you should have learned about these in your community management course already. But basically, you want to know who your ideal audience members are. So you can take a look at some of your sales information, or if you intuitively know who your key audience is going to be, then you can fill out just a little document like this to keep you informed about who you're going to be communicating to. So you should probably not have any more than like 3 to 5 buyer personas or marketing personas. And I think if you're just getting started, probably like 2 to 3 would be a really good number. So how do you create these profiles? Of course, you need to do your research. So the easiest way to get information is to interview your existing audience. So those could be customers, maybe they're donors or clients. You can talk to your frontline staff if you have frontline staff. So these would be people working maybe in customer service. They could be your sales team. If you're working in the nonprofit sector, they could be, your outreach coordinators or your event staff. You can check your Google Analytics. There's some demographic information there. And you can also talk to your web developers about turning on different features within Google Analytics to glean more demographic profiles. And you can also check your Twitter analytics. And this is something that we're going to talk about a little bit further on in the course. And there are other tools at your disposal that you can use. So you want to do a bunch of research so that you can get an idea of who your audience is. So I've got an example here. Let's see if we can, we'll go back. All right. So HubSpot has a great example of how to use these buyer personas, and I'll also include this link in our additional information. So this is a little buyer persona that they've created. So it's a company called Visual Creatives, and this great little stock image is supposed to represent their guy. They haven't given him a name, but he's the agency owner or founder. So I won't go through this in detail because you guys can read this on your own. But basically, there's a list of best practices here, and I think that this is really important. So you want your person to be semi-fictional, so you want to root your personas in real life, but you don't want it to be one specific person because not everybody is alike. So you're pulling some characteristics from similar people to create one profile. You want to include a day in their life, which is actually down towards the bottom. You want to know what their pain points are, and what their goals are and what they're trying to work towards. So how can you fit yourself into their day-to-day lives? So if you've got this Twitter account, why are they going to want to go to you for information? You want to include some demographic information, so a little bit of biographical information. What is this person's goals? So, it's not just about you and thinking about what you want for your company. You need to think about what your customers or your clients, what do your audience members need from you? Why are you something that needs to happen in their life? So this is where their pain points come in. How are you solving their pain points? And you can go through all of these different examples. They have a few different ones. So this is an example of a buyer persona or a marketing persona that you can create. Okay, so for example, I did a little mock-up of who might need this course. So her name is Jen. She's a communications coordinator. She works in the health nonprofit, and she manages all the communications for her organization. So she manages the social media. She does all of their traditional PR. So that could be direct mail, writing articles and op-eds. She manages events. She does their email marketing. She does all of their communications. She's about 25 years old. She's got a very entry-level salary of $35K, and she works in Toronto. She's got a bachelor in English literature, and she is currently working through the social media marketing certificate here at George Brown. Her goals are to learn up-to-date online marketing strategies to stay relevant. She wants to optimize her ability to work at the nonprofit. And the thing that really is killing her is that she's got so much on her plate. Nonprofits are typically understaffed, especially the small to medium-sized ones. And her boss doesn't really get social media. Her boss is an older guy who, has been doing things old school his entire life. He's been doing the traditional going to major donors to get the bulk of the funding for the organization, which is how a lot of charities run. And he just, in his life, social media doesn't make sense. And she wants to be able to talk to her fellow staff members to get them to open their minds up to using digital communications tools. She really values relevant information and tangible skills. She wants her assignments to be rooted in real-world scenarios, and she really doesn't want to spend time on irrelevant skills or long-winded lectures. So for her, the message would be that George Brown College Twitter marketing will give her those hands-on skills that she is working for, and things that she can really use to apply in her full-time job. And if she follows me on Twitter, she'll get a bunch of relevant articles, and she'll have access to a marketing professional who will answer her questions. So that's an example of the type of buyer persona or marketing persona that you would create for your target audience. All right, let's talk quickly about tone. I've got some examples here of a few social media, of a few brands that I follow on social media. So Riot Fest, I'm a fan of music. I enjoy heavier music, metal music and punk rock. So I follow Riot Fest. I went to Riot Fest in Toronto when it was here. It was a lot of fun. And I think whoever is managing their social media account is just nailing it in terms of their tone and the way that they present themselves. So they don't take themselves too seriously. Obviously, if anyone's a fan of The Office, this is the reference that they're using here. They make a lot of jokes, And they also, when they make a mistake, they correct it, and they're not afraid to use cuss words or the type of language that their target market would use. So, they made a mistake about what the pre-sale code is, and obviously he spelt it wrong, or she spelt it wrong, and so to correct it, he retweeted the broken version and put the newer, more correct version. And also not afraid to joke right back at people when they make their own comments. And they are quite responsive on their Twitter account, which is really nice, because when you're a music fan, you really do like to have a connection to not just the bands, but the events that you go to. A lot of people are very loyal to the different events that they go to, whether it is a heavier type of concert like Riot Fest or something like Way Home. People who go once, they typically go every year to see the new band, so it's nice to have that loyalty with a brand. So another brand that I like to follow is Buffer, and they are always filled with such great information. And you'll notice if you start following Buffer, which I highly recommend that you do, you'll see that their main goal is to educate people, and they use such amazing images. I really love it. So it's always kind of the value of the tweet is the content. They usually have some sort of emoji to catch your eye while you're scrolling through, and there's always a link, and that link will take you either to one of their articles or a trusted source that they often go to. So you can get some really great content, and it's really helpful for social media marketers and just people who really want to hone their skills on things like design and blogging and communicating better. They also do a lot of warm fuzzies, so if you follow Buffer long enough, or you send them an email or a tweet saying that you want some of their swag, they'll often send you some of their cool merch. I've got a bunch of Buffer stickers laying around my home office here, which happens to be my kitchen table, and I have yet to receive a pair of Buffer socks, so I'm hoping that that'll be on my doorstep soon. And they also give you just like great tips on how to use Twitter. So I highly recommend that you follow them, and you can get a sense that they are definitely out there to educate. They're very positive. They're always very kind. And if their @Buffer account doesn't respond to you, one of their staff members will respond from their personal accounts, probably within 5 hours. It's pretty awesome. JetBlue is another good one. They aren't afraid to be a little bit cheeky or kind of like play around with their branding. So obviously they want to maintain their professionalism, because, even though JetBlue is kind of a discount brand, that everybody likes discount airfare. So you don't want to just kind of pigeonhole yourself when you're working with a brand that could appeal to a wide audience. So their tone is very professional, but still kind of fun. And they use a lot of imagery in their tweets. And you'll also notice that it's not just English, because they know that they have a lot of Spanish-speaking customers, so they have tweets that are in Spanish, and it's not just that they've kind of simply translated, they've actually kind of created their own branding and imagery for the Spanish-speaking community. So it shows that not only do they understand that they have people who aren't English as a first language, but they actually have gone to the effort to create almost a separate strategy or a separate set of graphics for those non-English speakers. And again, they are able to make some puns, and again, the imagery is very, very strong and very prominent and very on brand. So you'll see that blue is a common color, just like their branding, and everything that they talk about always has the same vibe. So even if you didn't see their name here, you would know kind of who this tweet is coming from. And again, with the cheekiness, knowing that some people might find this scandalous, they do know that it is a joke, and if you're getting flights for cheap, you probably are okay with a few jokes every now and again. The Planetary Society is another Twitter account that I really love, and I think that they've nailed it. They really try to bring astronomy and science to the masses. They want people to be interested in astronomy, even if you aren't, a physicist or an astronomer. And so they use a lot of like really amazing imagery, and they use simple language when they are tweeting, so that anybody from a grade 5 student to an astrophysicist would feel like they've been informed and want to click on their links. And again, they do make use of GIFs quite a bit. Bill Nye is the CEO, I believe, or the executive director of the Planetary Society. It is a nonprofit, so they leverage Bill Nye's celebrity status, and he's a jokey kind of guy, so they are able to kind of have fun with a lot of the tweets that they have, so they don't have to just be very stiff-nosed scientists. They can have fun with their content, which I really love. And then again, they do a lot of throwbacks, and they have some great imagery, so they're not afraid to make use of GIFs and make use of videos and make sure that their content is very visual, because astronomy is, although very technically it can be based in numbers and code and things like that, to the average person, astronomy is very visual, and it's about imagination, and it's about seeing things. And so they do a very good job of catering to their audience. And of course, very excited to see that Bill Nye is going to have his show start, that the new Magic School Bus is coming. So they make sure that they relate the things that are happening in and around their world, not just specifically related to the Planetary Society, but things that are related to people who like science. They make sure that they're tweeting that information as well. Okay, so this is a really good matrix that you can set up, and obviously the link is below here. This is something that Stephanie Schwab at Social Media Explorer put together, and the graphic that she originally created didn't translate well on the screen, so I've just recreated it here so that it's easier to read. There are basically 4 things that you want to consider when you are developing your social media brand voice. That is your character / persona, your tone, the language that you're going to use, and your purpose. So you wouldn't fill it out with all of these. You would have maybe like 1 or 2, maybe 3 different items in each of these boxes, and this would be a way to guide you and other staff members to know how to communicate through your social media channels. Okay, we've got another example here, and it's MailChimp has done this really cool thing where they have this live website that anybody can go to. And basically, when you are doing any type of client-facing writing for MailChimp, you need to be able to follow along with their voice and tone style guide. So this is a pretty cool, I won't go through everything, but I highly recommend that you guys take a look at this and check it out. It's got some really great tips, and it can serve as a nice basis for you to develop your own voice and tone documents. It, of course, doesn't have to be its own website when you do it, but it is a good chance for you to see the different things that they are talking about. So just as an example, let's look at what happens when they've got loyal users on Twitter or Facebook. So they've identified a tweet or an update that might happen, which is, yippee, I love new updates from MailChimp. So they identify what those users' feelings are. It's trust, it's interest, and it's anticipation. So their tips for anybody responding to something like this is, get to the point, be casual, and delight people. And then, be appropriate. So during major news events, you want to turn off your schedule and promoted tweets. And this is something that is really important for everybody. If something really major is happening in the news and you are out there tweeting about your sale or something like that, it it looks pre-planned, and it also looks like you're not paying attention and you're not empathetic to what's going on. So when somebody has this, yippee, I love updates, you can see what their suggested response might be. So I'll let you guys go through this on your own, and you can take a look at the different options that they have for different social media, their different social media options. Okay. So here's our participation question for the week. I want to know what brand you think is totally nailing it with their voice and tone on Twitter. So use our hashtag Comp9604 and tweet at me at Ali Casella. Don't use an example from lecture, but I really want to see, and don't use your own brand. I want to see some of the people that you've started following that you really think are doing a great job, that they have a brand personality, and something that really speaks to you. All right, let's figure out how we find our audience and then engage with them. So you need to identify your key people. So obviously you're going to be using those profiles that we talked about in the beginning, those marketing profiles. But then you also want to take a look and do some research. Who are the experts in your field? Who are some of your customers? They might be online. They might already be tweeting at you. Do you already have a fan club in existence? And this might not be relevant for everybody. But say, for example, you teach a dance class and you see that there's a Twitter account that's something like, I don't know, Ballet Lovers of Toronto or Toronto Ballet Love or something like that. You might want to start following these different people who have a big audience themselves. You can use Twitter search to search for some hashtags. So again, if you are a Toronto-based dance studio, you could type some hashtags in like dance TO, hashtag dance TO, or dance people who are tweeting about the word dance in Toronto, and see if any of those people are relevant to follow. Add those people to a list as well. It can be private or public, but it's a good way to keep track of those people so that you can go back and interact with them. And then also there's a tool called Audience. It's spelled weird, which I hate. It used to be Social Bro, I believe, and now it's called Audience, and it's a tool that you can use to find more information about your audience. So this is Audience. This is my dashboard for my personal account, so it's a lot of information. I don't pay for an upgraded account. I used to, and I just found that it wasn't useful for me personally. I do for some of my clients, but I don't use it for myself personally. But you can use just their freemium, which is what this is, to take a look at different elements. And we'll talk a little bit more about Audience later on in the tools section. But basically, like, you can go through and take a look at users. So I can see all of the people who I'm following. I can see who doesn't follow me back. I mean, I'm really bummed out that Barack Obama has not returned my follow requests. Same with Taylor Swift and Ellen and Lady Gaga. But, them's the breaks. But you can go through and you can find out, who's following you, who's not following you. You can find followers that are not reciprocated by me. So, it's a really interesting way for you to see kind of the state of your Twitter account. And then once you find those people, you need to engage with them. So it's one thing to find your audience, and it's a whole other thing to actually start up conversations. And so I know that based on the answers that a lot of you gave to the survey, by the way, thank you very much to everybody who's filled out that survey. But I did see a lot of people saying, I want to increase my followers. I want to get to 1,000 followers, or I want to get to 10,000 followers. And I think it's really important for us to keep asking ourselves, to what end? Why do we want 1,000 followers? Why do you want 10,000 followers? Do you have good conversion rates already? So, with the 100 followers that you have, how many people are clicking on your links? If you have a higher number of followers, do you see that there's a correlation between more followers and more link clicks? Because you can have 10,000 followers, but if they're all bots, then what good is that? So you really want to be thinking about engaging with the people that you find that you see are relevant. You don't want to be just like following people who are like for like or follow for follow, because you're not getting any value out of that. That's not going to help you drive more people to your website. It's not going to help you get more newsletter subscribers. You're going to end up with these vanity metrics that get you nowhere, and you're just going to continue to be frustrated with Twitter. I do want you to set up an audience profile this week so that you can use it for your upcoming assignments. It takes a little bit for it to get for audience to get your information loaded and for you to get some stats that make sense. So you need to set it up this week so that in future weeks for your assignments it works properly. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Twitter chats. If you haven't participated in a Twitter chat already, great, you're going to get to do it this week. So Twitter chats are a timed live discussion on Twitter. Normally the format is there's an intro, and then the host will ask a question using Q1, and then you as the participant will respond using A1 and then your answer. You can track using a variety of different tools, and I believe it is a really good practice to write a summary blog and then tweet that out to everybody. So usually participate by using a specific hashtag within the time range. There will be a host, and there will be pre-invited people, and then you can jump in as well. So, for example, Hootsuite runs Hoot Chat every week, and this is how they answer their questions. So, this is question 3. Where do you go to find content to curate? They include an image, so it's super, super visible in the stream, because if you've got just like a bunch of people chatting, it can become really overwhelming. And they've used Hoot Chat as their hashtag, so that all you have to do is go to Twitter search, type in the hashtag, and search for it, and you'll be able to see everything in the stream. Or if you're in the Hootsuite app, you'll be able to find it as well. So then when you answer, you would say A1, where do I go to find good I go to Buffer to find good content to curate, or I use Feedly to manage my content curation, hashtag HootChat, and then you would be involved in that discussion. Typically, chats only last about an hour. You're usually able to get people like on their lunch hour. It's hard to get people to engage for much longer than that. Okay, so how do they work? You need to pick a topic. It needs to be well defined. It should be relevant to your brand. You need to define your chat hashtags so that people can follow. Some examples are buffer chat, social media marketing chat, which is SMM chat, and it needs to be the same every week. Again, there's also Hoot Chat from Hootsuite, so you can check those ones out. So you want to have your topic and your hashtag. And then you need to set your schedule up. Are you going to do this more than once, or is it just a one-off? Consider polling people for the date and time, or looking at your statistics and your usership. Again, if you go into audience, you'll be able to see the most common time that your followers are online, so you'll have a sense of what works, but also you want something that works for you. So you can use that, your audience information, either using your Twitter analytics or a tool like Audience. It's really throwing me off because of the C and S difference. But you can use that information to determine what the best time zone is. For example, I have a client who lives in Ireland. If I were going to be running a Twitter chat for him and his audience, it wouldn't make sense for me to say, okay, it's going to be 3:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because in Ireland that's 8:00 at night, and it's not going to work for a lot of his followers. So you need to make sure that it works for your audience as well as whoever's running it on your end of things. Now, I had mentioned that typically Twitter chats only go for about an hour, but if you have a super special occasion, you could do a longer one. So for example, in Canada, Giving Tuesday offered a full day Twitter chat. And you could basically kind of go in and out, participate in the different sections that made sense to you. But they had every hour, they had a new topic with a new expert. And it was talking all about the charitable sector and fundraising and community management in Canadian charities. Okay, the third thing you need to think about is your host or your expert. So are you the host or are you the expert? So if you're the host, you have the opportunity to reach out to others to act as the expert. So Buffer Chat does this quite a bit. Buffer acts as the host, and then they reach out to others who are experts in the field. So if their Buffer Chat is going to be talking about Instagram marketing, which is something they just done, then they will reach out to somebody who is an expert on Instagram marketing, and that person will be answering questions and will kind of be directing conversations, whereas Buffer will be the one kind of managing the questions and making sure that things are being answered. If you're the host, you can also leverage the following of that expert. So, Buffer Chat asks somebody with 10,000 followers to be their host or to be their expert, then all of a sudden all of those people get a notification about Buffer Chat, and so it is beneficial to both people. If you're the host, you can be the expert once in a while. So you could pull from your company's talent pool. If you've got really amazing bloggers, then one of your chat weeks could be interviewing one of your bloggers or making sure that you have one of your bloggers on hand to answer questions. You can, have your CEO answer some questions, for example, as well. If you are going to be the expert in the Twitter chat, then it means that you are positioning yourself. So if you want people to consider you to be an expert in a certain field, then if you act as the expert for each of your chats, then it gives you an opportunity to be that expert. Although it's very odd to be asking yourself questions and answering them at the same time. All right, you want to have your questions predefined. So typically in a Twitter chat, if you have at least 25 to 50 people or more participating in your Twitter chat, you can probably get 5 to 6 questions in an hour-long period. So if you are using an expert, you want to send them to the expert ahead of time so that he or she can have preloaded answers. And then also, you want to have your own answers if you are hosting or if you are the expert, just to get the ball rolling. So you want to have, if you're the expert, you might want to poll people in advance to see what questions they might have about a specific topic, and then you can answer those questions as people go along. You also need to know that it doesn't happen by magic. So you don't just say hashtag Twitter chat, hashtag whatever your hashtag is, and then think that people are just going to show up. You need to reach out to your engaged users in advance. So if you have an e-newsletter list, you want to email those people in advance and let them know, send them an event invitation so that they participate. Also send them a reminder the day of, or maybe an hour before it starts, so that you know that they're going to be involved. You also want to reach out to your engaged Twitter followers. So if you've got fans on Twitter that constantly engage with you, then you definitely want to reach out to those people so that they're involved. You want to tell people what the hook is. Excuse me. What's the hook? You need to make it known. What is the point? What are people going to learn? What are they going to get from it? Is it just about entertainment? It needs to be more than just promoting your brand, because nobody cares about your brand. They care about themselves, and they need to know why should they pay attention to you? They've got a busy day. Why should they participate in this? And then you need to advertise. It doesn't have to be paid advertisement, but you do need to let people know well in advance, and you need to keep reminding them. A really important thing is to track and engage. So you want to use some different tools to manage what's going on. So you can use Storify. I'll actually show you an example here. I've got a Storify going right now for our week 1 discussion. So everybody who's participated so far is in here, and if I hit my edit button, So this is how Storify works. You create your title. This is the question that we posed in class, and then if you go to Twitter, I can enter in our hashtag and search, and it'll come up with all of the different tweets that are being used with our hashtag. So I also wanted to make sure that I was just using the questions. So I've been tweeting out some interesting articles that I found, and I know that other people have been doing the same thing. So I just wanted to pull the questions, and the easiest thing to do is you just like grab the tweet and pull it to wherever you want it to be, and then all of a sudden that's there, and then you can go ahead and share this to people when you're finished with it, which is really cool. You can also use Hootsuite to track. You can track your hashtags in Hootsuite. So if you know that you're going to be having your Twitter chat, or if you're participating in a Twitter chat, you can set up a new stream in your Hootsuite account. And we'll talk more about tools later on. But you can use Hootsuite to track your hashtags so that you can see all the content. You can pre-schedule your questions using Buffer. You can do the same thing with Hootsuite. I just love the interface of Buffer a little bit more than I do Hootsuite, so that's why I always include it. You need to know who is managing your questions and answers. So if you know that you're going to have hundreds of people participating, you might need more than one person. You might need one person managing the questions and another person managing the answers. Who is going to be responding? You're going to definitely want to retweet your experts so that people see that, because oftentimes in a really quick Twitter chat, somebody will answer and all of a sudden that answer will be gone super fast. So you want to make sure that you retweet it so that when people go back to your account, they'll be able to see the question and then the expert answer almost in order in the future. And then you also want to make sure that you respond during the Twitter chat, but as well as after. So if there are people who were really active or really engaged, you want to make sure you want to go back and thank them. And if anybody had asked a question or some sort of follow-up question that you couldn't get to during the chat, you want to go back and make sure that you answer those. So you want to be keeping in mind what staff resources are needed. You definitely need at least one person from your staff to be managing the questions and the answers, but who's going to write up the follow-up blog? Who's going to make sure that all the questions are answered, and who's going to manage your expert if you have an expert. All right, follow-up. So a blog summary is really important. I think Buffer Chat does a really good job of this. They always have a blog summary that they use every week, and I think it's really great. It's a way to sum up the information, so if you miss Buffer Chat, you can always go back and see what was discussed and you're not really missing anything. And it's also an opportunity for people who aren't really into the whole, like, I need to sit here for an hour to get all these questions answered. They can still come to your site. It's another reason for them to visit your website, number one. And number two, it's a great way for you to keep track of all that great content. You want to leverage that information. And if you've got this great expert that you've asked to come and do a Twitter chat with you, you don't want that to just be like, okay, thanks for coming, bye, and then not save that information for later. So definitely a blog summary is worthwhile. Follow up with people who have questions. Again, if somebody was asking a question or a follow-up question that didn't get answered right away, you want to make sure that you answer those questions. Internally, you want to assess how did you learn things? How are we going to use this information? All of these new followers that we might have gleaned, what does that mean? How are we going to leverage these people? How are we going to thank them? And then, of course, you want to share about it. So if you've got that blog summary, you want to share it. You want to keep engaged with the expert that you were just engaging with and who was invited to be part of it, and also looking forward to the next one that you do, the next Twitter chat that you host. How are you going to make it even bigger and better and more awesome for your audience? So for example, this is a great follow-up that Buffer Chat put out. So every time Buffer Chat does their blog, they often feature different Twitter users who participated. So Jack Lazarin was featured, and so Buffer tweeted to him to let him know that he was featured in their follow-up blog. And this is just another great way that you can connect with people to let them know that you're listening to them and you're sharing their information. So it's a really cool way to get another engagement. Oh, look, I have an example. So this is the follow-up blog that Buffer does after every Buffer chat that they have. So you could click on Buffer chat and see everything that they've ever done. So this is just a summary of what they talked about, and this Twitter chat was about taking your Instagram stories up a notch. So it's their recap. They obviously mentioned their expert that was there, and then they give you a little update on what happened. So they've got a summary of each question that was asked, and then again they feature their expert, which is excellent. And then from their community they include the Twitter accounts of the people who are participating, so it's a great way to show your community that you value them by giving them a little nod, so that maybe they'll get some more followers. And then again, it's a way for you to be able to go back to each one of these people and say, hey, just wanted to let you know that you are featured in the summary from our most recent Buffer chat. So it's a great way to interact with people. All right. Oops. So let's talk about our assignment. We've come to the end. That went by fast for me. So your second assignment is to design a Twitter chat. It's going to be due Sunday, March 19th, 2017 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, all of your assignments need to go through Google Drive, and a Google Doc is how I would like to have the assignments handed in. And don't forget, it needs to be submitted by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or, sorry, that should be 25 per day, 25%, as I mentioned in the last class. So changing that now, 25% period will be applied to anybody who hands the assignment in late. So let's take a look very briefly at the assignment. So you're going to be designing a Twitter chat. And really the purpose is to familiarize yourself with Twitter chat and then develop something. So the first part is for you to participate in a Twitter chat. I've got some resources listed here of some excellent Twitter chats that you can participate in for marketers, or you could just use the ones that I talked about in class. Hootsuite, Hootchat is really great, or Buffer Chat is really amazing. I love the Buffer Chat one. I've obviously got such a professional crush on Buffer. I think they do really great work. So you want to find a chat, participate in it, prove it that you've participated in it, and then design a Twitter chat. So based on the best practices that we discussed in lecture this week, you need to develop a Twitter chat. So you want to talk about your company, your brand, your profile. What's your topic? What's the schedule? Who is going to be the host and the expert? I don't want you to actually run the chat. This is something that it's the planning phase. So keep in mind that you're probably not going to get somebody like Guy Kawasaki to be your expert, but maybe if you are thinking about running a Twitter chat for your business, pick somebody who might actually participate so that you can run this or use this as a blueprint for something that happens in real life. You need to have your predefined questions. What's your hook and who are you going to invite? So are you going to find some people? Do you have an existing mailing list? Do you already know of some people on Twitter that would be interested? So go ahead and do a little bit of community research. And then what are your tracking and follow-up plans? So again, you don't need to run this Twitter chat. However, if you're currently working for a brand, definitely create something that you might actually use. So don't go crazy fantasyful about this. Make it usable for yourself. And then, as with every other assignment, your rubric is down here so that you know what you're being marked for and what each option is worth. And that's it. That's it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'm looking forward to tweeting with you and to reading your assignments and hearing all about your Twitter chat experiences. And I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye.